Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Shark Tank Without the Bite, a panel discussion of successful entrepreneurs. My name is Megan Frisk. I'm the Associate Vice President for University Relations, Alumni, and Parents, and I am just ecstatic to welcome you all this evening. This event has been in the works. It was really an idea that came from Cindy Olson-Borland, who I am going to introduce here in a moment. She's going to be the moderator for tonight, but really, we really try to provide lifelong learning opportunities for our alumni, our students, members of the community, and what better way to do this to engage our entire community, but by really giving advice from some experts in their field. And so I'm just thrilled to see you all here tonight. Cindy Olson-Borland is a 1989 graduate of Southwestern University. As the president of Borland Law, Cindy handles business, trial, and appellate cases. She is a former recipient of the Austin Business Journal's Profiles in Power Award, the Austin Under 40 Award in Law, and the Austin Outstanding Young Lawyer Award. She has been named a Texas Super Lawyer since 2007 and is a member of Mensa. Cindy currently serves on Southwestern's Board of Visitors and as the Lifelong Learning Chair for Southwestern's Alumni Council. On behalf of the Southwestern community, I want to thank Cindy for coordinating tonight's event, and I'm going to turn over the room to Cindy. Thank you, Cindy.
Woo, woo! Woo!
Okay, thank you, Megan. This feels like being back in college, right? I'm so glad to see all of you, and thank you for coming, and thank you to our wonderful panelists who I'm about to introduce. First, I need my prop. This is a shark, as this event is entitled Shark Tank Without the Bite, meaning these panelists aren't going to jump down your throat if you ask them questions, nor will there be any formal business or investment opportunities offered. But I am going to moderate the event and just sort of throw out some questions relating to these folks' entrepreneurial success, at the end of which we'll have some time for you all to ask questions. So be thinking about that. And then at the very end, I'm going to pick a volunteer from the audience, to the extent someone is willing to volunteer, to pitch a business idea, sort of like the show, The Shark Tank. And this is an opportunity for you to get feedback about the viability of your idea from these very successful entrepreneurs. So put on your thinking cap. You don't have to volunteer. We only have time for one. If you do volunteer, you'll get a gift and a commemorative shark. So let's get started. Joining me this evening, as I said, are some of Austin's most successful and accomplished entrepreneurs. I'm going to introduce them, but before I do, consider with me for a moment these definitions of entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. And another definition, a person who organizes and operates a business taking a greater than normal financial risk to do so. So please keep in mind that definition this evening as you listen to the discussion. I think the concept of risk is certainly integral to each of these entrepreneur stories. So let me tell you a little bit about each of our panelists. By the way, can y'all all hear me? Oh, thank you. We're going to go in alphabetical order down the line here. Randy Cohen. Randy Cohen is the founder and CEO, which according to his business card stands for Chief Energizing Officer, of Ticket City, a ticket broker and online marketplace based in Austin. Since founding Ticket City in 1990, Randy has grown the company into one of the most successful companies in the secondary ticket market, with high profitability and a $50 million revenue. Randy is also a frequent speaker and author. He's written a children's book as well as a business book entitled Ticket to the Limit: How Passion and Performance Can Transform Your Life. He's also on the board of the Austin Chamber of Commerce and regularly MCs their business awards. Oh, and by the way, to the extent you didn't hear him mention this earlier, he sent me a nice selfie today from lunch with Bill Clinton. So we're honored to have Randy with us here tonight at Southwestern. Next is Lisa Copeland. Lisa is the general manager of Fiat of Austin, the #1 Fiat dealer in the United States. Under Lisa's management, Fiat of Austin became the first Fiat dealership in North America to sell 100 Fiat 500s in a single month. And this came about as the result of a bet that we'll have her elaborate on later. You gotta love a lady who likes to gamble. Lisa has excelled in auto dealership management, a field that is historically and currently male-dominated. Lisa is a member of the National Chrysler Dealer Council and was named one of the 5 most powerful women in Austin by the Austin Business Journal. She's also a contributing author of the New York Times bestseller, Succeeding Against All Odds, and a co-founder of Women Impacting the Nation and the Project 19 Foundation, nonprofits that are both dedicated to advocating leadership roles for women. Next, we have Bob Fabio. Bob is a dear friend and a serial entrepreneur, having served as CEO, founder, director, and venture capitalist for over 25 years and has extensive experience starting, funding, growing, and managing companies in both the technology sector and the healthcare sector. Some of the companies he has started have been acquired by global corporations, including his company Dazzle being acquired by HP for $285 million, Agira being acquired by Lucent for $500 million, and his first major startup, Tivoli, being acquired by IBM for $743 million. I'm feeling really behind the curve. Bob was awarded the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 1997 and has served as a judge for entrepreneur awards around the country. And last year, Bob was inducted into the Rochester Institute of Technology Innovation Hall of Fame. He currently serves as the founder and CEO of eRelevance Corporation. And he would never admit this, but he's also an accomplished ballroom dancer. Next to Lisa Copeland, and between Lisa and Bob is Melinda Garvey, who is the co-founder and publisher of AW Media Inc., which publishes Austin Woman Magazine, launched in 2002, and ATX Man Magazine, launched in 2011. 2 of the fastest growing niche publications in this area, in addition to other publications such as the Pink Pages. Melinda served as the entrepreneur in residence at the McCombs School of Business at the University of Texas during the 2011-2012 school year, and in 2013 she was named a Profile in Power winner by the Austin Business Journal. Melinda is also a tireless philanthropist and actively engaged in the community. As an interesting note, Melinda never even thought about or wanted to start her own business, but after a few glasses of wine and a suggestion from a friend that she start a magazine about Austin women, as there was no perceived dialogue happening at that time about Austin women, she quit her job and launched the first issue of Austin Woman 7 months later. And finally, at the end, we have Kelly Holt, who is a 2011 graduate of Southwestern University and the founder and editor-in-chief of the Austin Phoenix, a quarterly magazine that features local entrepreneurs, startups, and new businesses in Austin, and provides business resources and advice. So it's a magazine for and about entrepreneurs. And the Austin Phoenix grew from a blog that Kelly started while working in retail after graduating from Southwestern, and it will publish its 6th print issue in June. So while Kelly, with her young business, may be more like a dolphin in this tank of sharks, she is certainly on her way to becoming a very successful entrepreneur, and we're so glad to have her. So welcome, panel. So as I said, I'm going to kick this off with some questions. Following that, we'll do your questions, the business pitch, and there's a reception in the lobby following that. So stick around and get to know these entrepreneurs. Okay, let's get started. We'll start with Melinda, since I love that story of quitting a job and starting your own business. Tell us and tell the audience a little bit about that and how you overcome the fear factor of quitting a steady job and leaping out there to start a brand new venture.
Well, don't drink and talk business. I guess that's the first rule of thumb. But it really did happen that way, and I guess I do, even though it's a crazy story, it's very true. I like to share that just because I think that entrepreneurship can hit you at any time. I truly I didn't have entrepreneurs in my family. I didn't know anything about, I didn't know the word entrepreneurship. So, I think just kind of keeping that open mind, you never know when an idea is going to hit you and that passion is going to take over. And that kind of comes around to this talking about overcoming fear. I think that there's this mantra in the entrepreneur world, and certainly in the women's entrepreneur world, about being fearless. Everyone talks about fearlessness, and I guess that maybe I'm a contrarian, but I sort of go against that and say that never happens. None of us are fearless. In fact, I would say that probably everybody up here is scared half to death most of the time. We're making big decisions. We've got a lot of people that are counting on us, and it's scary. But here's what I say about that, or two things. Number one, if you're not a little bit scared, if you don't have that churning in your stomach and that feeling of like, your goals probably aren't big enough. You're probably not reaching high enough and pushing hard enough. So that, fear is something that you've got to embrace, because it's a real indicator that what you're doing is important and it's big. And that, pushing through that and making that happen is even more rewarding. And I think that the other thing to remember is that I see so many people, and I talk to so many business owners, small business owners, or people who want to be business owners, especially, saying, oh, well, I couldn't do that because, you're fearless and I'm not. And I was like, no. Don't ever let that be a barrier. What I would do is walk up to the person who you see as the absolutely most fearless person, like, oh gosh, there's no way they ever feel fear, and you ask them. And I assure you, they will tell you so many stories, and you will go, okay, you know what, I'm just like them and I can do it too.
Okay, thank you. And I'd invite, for all of these questions, if any of the panel members want to jump in and comment on that, feel free.
I always have a comment. I made Complete Woman magazine after I was on Montel Williams, and this must have been about 20-some years ago. I think I started like the beginning of Match.com because I got so many emails after I made Complete Woman magazine. I don't know if that's a competitor, but I think after I was in it, it kind of went out of business. Anyway, that's my comment.
Well, on that point, Randy, your title, Chief Energizing Officer, and your book title that you tie into that, How Passion and Performance Can Transform Your Life, I'd like to speak to that. So if there are members of the audience that are sitting out there feeling not so passionate about what they're doing, or there's more, they want to take that leap, how does passion and energy play a part in your success?
You know what? You have to be authentic. You have to be real in whatever you're doing. And if you're not, people are going to see right through it. So, literally the way, my book starts off, it starts off going, woo, woo, stand back, non-believers. Let this day get started, And that's me. I'm rolling out of bed thinking, what are we going to do today that's going to make a difference? And I think with Ticket City, it really reflects on the management team that I have. The management team that I have has been with me probably for an average of 18 years, each person. And that's kind of unheard of, within the .com years and everything that's going on today. Everybody's, in and out in a job and a business. So the bottom line is love what you do it well, and keep on doing it. And, you figure things out. So just trying to keep things short and sweet.
So Bob, let me ask you, you've been around the block in every kind of entrepreneurial venture and starting, selling companies. We've talked about jumping out there and overcoming the fear factor. We've talked about the energy, the passion. How do you assess that risk? How do you manage a healthy fear and assess the risk, whether you're looking at it for your own venture or you're vetting a company as a potential venture capitalist?
So I look at whether I'm running a company or I'm looking at a deal to invest in or advise, I focus on what's called business truth. So it's, is there clarity around what problem is being solved for what target audience, what's the size of that audience, what's the distribution, what's the offering, it's all what I call the what's. And so often, young companies don't have clarity across these different what's, and so they flounder and they lose money, or they consume extra capital, or they go out of business. And so To me, it's an intellectual exercise of really poking at these various topics, and as I said, it's all the what's and what's the competitive landscape, what's the macro trends underfoot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and quickly I can get to a feeling of whether it's something to pursue or not.
And if you're starting a new venture completely, a new idea, whether it be high-tech or something more low-tech, are there some must-take steps that you would recommend before launching any business?
Yes. I think that another big mistake besides focusing on the what so that you have business truth is figuring out ultimately who you're going to serve and what they care about and testing it. So often people build things but have no idea whether anybody cares about it. Or they say things, they communicate things, and they have no idea whether those messages resonate, or on and on. So it's so critical to figure out who cares. I ask that question often of entrepreneurs. It sounds flip, but it's actually not meant to be. Who cares? Who cares about this? And then what have you done to test it? And so when we started eRelevance, it's catering to doctors and hospital systems, and we did 8 or 9 blind surveys, connected with thousands of doctors across the country and asked a variety of questions, and we're frankly surprised by a lot of the answers. But that's an essential piece of the due diligence that I think is necessary and often missing in these young endeavors.
Cindy, if I can chime in on that a little bit. When I started Ticket City, y'all, I'm from that old kind of lemonade stand model. I started Ticket City with $1,200 in my pocket and bought $206 seats for the big game. And it was Arkansas versus Texas. Arkansas was the #1 team in the country, and Texas was the #3 team in the country. And about $206 seats. The game finally sold out, and I fanned out my tickets. People were at the box office, and they turned around, and I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and sold all the seats for $15 a piece. Made a little bit of money. Thought this was way better than waiting tables and bartending. But what you have to do, like in a lemonade stand, is you're buying your sugar, you're buying your cups. You might borrow a few bucks from mom and dad to get that started. And then, when you sell everything out, you go buy more, and you grow that way. And that's the old school model. There's so many angels and angel investors, and there's so much money accessible where people are trying to give it to you for a piece of the pie. Try to do things on your own first. Do as much as you can out of your house. When I first started Ticket City, I was working out of the car with the radio phone with ads in the Austin American-Statesman, selling a couple tickets that I had bought and meeting people at the Burger King. You do what it takes, make a little bit of money, and then slow, steady growth. And like Cindy said, today Ticket City's doing about 60-some million a year in the marketplace and another 30 million a year on the brokerage side, with a staff of 50, and we're still continuing to grow. It's slow and steady. You don't have to risk everything by borrowing somebody's money. When it's your own money, you sometimes work a lot harder and smarter.
Called bootstrapping.
Yeah.
Bootstrapping.
Traditional way.
That's right. And to that point, Kelly, I think you've been, as you indicated to me in your email, you've built your entire business so far on the concept of bootstrapping. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I started the Austin Phoenix. We launched the first issue in 2012, November 2012. And we have bootstrapped the entire business, and we're working on the 6th issue currently. And since it's quarterly, we've been in business for a little over a year right now. But the way we've been able to manage it is just sort of an exchange of value on a service level. So we have 3 photographers, 1 fashion editor, 1 makeup and hairstylist, and several writers. And so far, we've been able to exchange value for them, and so they work for us in return. And right now, that's how we've been able to sustain the business so far.
Okay, well, let's switch gears a little bit. If you're not in a position to start a brand new business, you're within an existing industry, there's still plenty of ways to innovate and be entrepreneurial. So Lisa, let me ask you, car dealerships are everywhere. How can you be entrepreneurial within an already established industry and speak a little bit to the concept of buying cars her way? I love that.
Oh, thank you. So agreed, because the car dealerships are on every corner, absolutely. But my business partner and I, Niall Maxwell, you know, when we launched the Fiat brand to America, we made the decision that we would revolutionize the auto industry. So it wasn't about selling a commodity or a car. It was about change and truly inciting change in an industry that had a very, very bad rap to it. So he had sold all of his dealerships, had come back, brought me back, and then he and I entered into the Fiat world and decided to launch the brand to America. But both of us came back with a fresh set of eyes. And I think it's important because I think that you can look on television and you can see everything that goes on in the automotive world. But for us, we have purpose. You see, it's not just about selling cars. It's what the automotive industry stands for in America. And we really believe that we're moving America forward. So it isn't just about selling the car. And so, you know, if you're in an industry that's already been established, like the car industry, you know, what is your why, right? What is your what and what is your why? Well, our why was to revolutionize the auto industry. Our what was we were going to help save America. Because at that point, 4 years ago, we had 2 Chrysler stores, a GMC store, and then we were going to launch Fiat. Well, we were in bankruptcy, not us, but Government Motors and the Chrysler Corporation. And we were not sure that, you know, that our brands were even going to sustain. And so, you know, we just really came back with a big why and a what and a purpose, and it's really has served us well. And then, of course, the better we do, the more that we're able to give back into the community. And then the buying cars her way has always been my passion, because the females are the #1 consumer in America, and she's not spoken to. She's not listened to. She's not valued. And so I took Niall and my together, our why was to revolutionize, but my personal was to really bring the female consumer into light, give her value, and give her power. So I write a national blog that's been picked up by Auto Trader and some other ones called Buying Cars Her Way, and it's a blog on helping women be good consumers. So it's just been a passion for me, because ladies, we have the power, we have the purse, and whether we are the actual consumer, either we make the money or we spend the money or we do both. So, you know, don't ever lose your power in the as a consumer. So.
What was the bet mentioned in your book about selling 100 Fiat 500s in a month?
There could have been some wine behind that, but I sit on the National Dealer Council for Chrysler Corporation, so there's 18 of us dealers, 18 of us in the nation that govern the entire Chrysler Corporation, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Fiat. And so I was at dinner with the CEO of Fiat, and I told him, I said, you know, we're gonna do 100 cars in a month. And he says, it's not gonna happen. It's never happened before. It won't happen. You got 1 car, blah, blah, blah. And I said, let's just make a bet. And he's like, well, what do you want? And I said, I want to meet Marchione. And for those of you who don't know, he's the chairman of Ferrari, Chrysler, Maserati, Alfa Romeo, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. And in car world, he's God. And so I said, I want to meet Marchione. And he said, well, that isn't going to happen. And I said, why? And he said, for 2 reasons. You're not going to sell 100. Number 2, I mean, you're just the Fiat dealer. So long story short, he and I cut the bet that night. And first month, we missed the mark. The next month, we hit it. We exceeded it, actually, to 110. So Kaniskas came to town, and he said, wow. Well, the day before sales closed, I knew we were going to hit it, and I told him, I said, you need to tell Marchione to gas up the G5. He's coming to Texas. And he said, oh, God, please do not tell Automotive News that you guys have done this, because it's going to hit the Wall Street, it's going to hit the wire. And I said, I won't, but I want to talk to Marchione. So anyways, long story short, Marchione did come, and he fulfilled Tim's bet, and it was definitely a defining moment in my career to meet the most powerful man, probably one of the most powerful men in the world, because in my opinion, he saved the auto industry by negotiating the Fiat Chrysler bailout. And he's really cool, and he even built me a pink car, so that was kind of fun too. Yeah.
Thank you. That's such a great story. Okay. Well, back to Melinda. Your business is unique in that it is both location and gender specific. At least Austin Woman magazine was, before you also launched ATX Man. Obviously, there are risks to limiting your audience in that way. Are there also benefits to those limitations, and would you even call them limitations?
I actually wouldn't call them limitations. I think that, you know, as just you know, technology takes off, everybody's always just trying to have this sort of one-to-one conversation, and it's difficult to do anymore. Even when you look at Facebook, I mean, we're laughing because a lot of people say, "Oh, I think we're Facebook friends," but you know, they've never met before. You know, and I think that happens a lot. So I think that having this niche market, and quite frankly, especially in the women's arena, just having something that's really focused on inspiring and empowering and really talking about all the incredibly cool women in Austin. And I will tell you, when I first launched, my number one fear, besides all the other fear, was, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to sustain this thing? Are there enough cool people to have on our covers in the I mean, you just don't know, right? And I'll tell you, it's probably my biggest point of stress now, that there's so many that we can't even get to and feature. And then then there are cover women who then reinvent themselves down the road and think, well, they need to be on the cover again. So I think that having that niche is really important, and I think it's what not only we seek as people, but it's also what our advertisers seek. They want to go one-to-one, and it's part of the reason why we launched. We actually do 3 major events as well, and that was sort of an extension of, okay, we love what you're doing with the magazine, now let's take it a step further. Now I want to actually be at an event where I can talk directly to these people and meet them in person. So we do a lot of that. So a lot of that is an extension. So I think it's really, it's sort of this oasis in a world that's become really impersonal.
Well, on the gender topic, let me direct this to Kelly. As a young entrepreneur and as a young female entrepreneur, how do you gain credibility with these business people you're interacting with as you're growing your business?
First of all, knowing what to say when you go and speak with someone about your business, so being confident about your business, but also just understanding that you bring value to the table, and not necessarily allowing the limitations of a definition as a young female just out of college stop you from understanding your own value. When you walk into a room full of people with experience under their belt, money in their pocket, you still bring something to the table. And I think for me, it's been crucial just to acknowledge that I'm bringing value, and then also to just acknowledge the state that I'm in and be honest about it. And that's really sort of how I've done it. And honestly, I mean, if you do good work and you focus on the work that you're doing, you'll gain credibility through your work. So.
The Austin area is unique in that being young and being, right out of school, none of that is really a handicap anymore. In fact, sometimes I think when I wear a business suit, I'm being discriminated against. I'm not young and hip enough anymore. But for students in the audience interested in entering the greater Austin area, the business arena, would you have any tips for them, any types of resources that you found to be particularly helpful?
Yeah, I mean, depending on what you want to do, I mean, just networking is really beneficial. Austin is a growing city, but it's still a really small community. And so networking is extremely powerful, and I wouldn't underestimate it in any interaction that you have with anybody. There's a bunch of resources for entrepreneurs in Austin as well. So co-working spaces, incubators, just visiting those places and talking to people about what you want to do, even if it's just a concept. Not if it's, I mean, you can talk about your foreign business, you can talk about all the ideas that you have. People are just generally interested in meeting other people, and they're interested in your specific talents too, and not just necessarily your business idea. So I think networking is the most important way to get your foot in the door, and I think there's a lot of different places you can go to in Austin, specific places like co-working spaces. And we actually did an article about co-working spaces, so you should visit the Austin Phoenix site and check it out. And so I think, yeah, a good place to start would be those little small communities that are there to help early stage entrepreneurs.
And to add to that, you have to be aggressive. You really have to be the one head of the sea of heads that stand out so people take notice. And I'm not saying being a jerk and a loudmouth, but you have to, be a little creative to get yourself known, whatever it takes, because there is a lot of competition out there, y'all. And if you don't stand out, your party's going to be over.
Yeah, I'd like to throw in, just with us being locally owned in our industry, so much has gone corporate now. They've come in, the big guys have come in and bought out, and there's very few locally owned. So it's really important to us with our businesses that we really try to do business local, and we try to do business with people that do business with us. We advertise in the local publications. I mean, whatever it may be, we very much appreciate the fact that people in our town do business with us, so we give back. And I think if you want to do business in this town, just like, I was telling Melinda earlier, if you want to have a friend, you have to be a friend. Well, I think you have to do that in business too. So.
See, the tricky part about that is you don't know if people are really local or not with the internet. If you guys have read the book, The World is Flat, I mean, everything's out there everywhere. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
But there's still people around that you know that are at your chamber meeting, and you could
Oh,
buy,
yeah, for
you could
sure.
buy
Yeah.
paper and pencils from
For-
them
for
versus
sure.
Staples or whatever, so.
Well, and I think that when you're out there networking, I agree that it's a really powerful tool, and I think a lot of people, it's kind of gotten this bad name, but I think that going back to something Randy said, are just about being authentic and, networking authentically, and what that really means is you go in there with what you have to offer others. What is it? What can I do for you? Not about you. However, when you do then, after you've given and put, deposited in that bank, when somebody does ask you, hey, what can I do to help you? What do you need? I can't tell you how many times I hear, I don't know, I'm just struggling. I don't know where I want to go. I don't know what I want to do. I don't know. Understand your own business plan. Understand where you want to go. Understand what that next step looks like for you. Because if you are passionate about that dream and you are clear and crystal on that, you'll find people that want to help you. I mean, they will be like, I get that, and you'll find the right person and will track that. If you go in just networking thinking somebody's going to just get me and figure me out and bring me along, that's never going to happen. So just really having that understanding.
and adding to that, get a mentor, get a coach, get somebody that you're gonna bounce things off of, not necessarily your spouse or your right hand, somebody that's been there and done that. And people are all about willing to do stuff like that, so don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah. Also, I think it's really powerful to be able to make requests. So, I mean, if you can just generally practice making requests, it would be a really good practice because you're going to need to make requests in the future as an entrepreneur, and it's a really powerful thing to do. And people respond positively to it. So, preparing yourself for that kind of interaction.
Well, I know Bob is a partner at the Capital Factory. Bob, do you want to discuss those resources and any others that you know of in Austin along that line?
Well, I was just thinking, when I started Tivoli in 1989, there was barely anybody to talk to about anything. It was like I was young and green, and I've characterized it as in a dark room banging around trying to figure out what to do next, and it was could be pretty scary some days. Today the world is changed, and certainly Austin's changed. There's a ton of resources available. As Cindy mentioned, I'm one of the partners and mentors at the Capital Factory, and so actually tomorrow afternoon, for the entire afternoon, I'm speed dating, if you will, with entrepreneurs every 30 minutes, where I'm listening to their business and giving them feedback and suggesting things that they need to go do or people they need to meet, so on and so forth. And that's pretty darn new here in Austin. And I think the Capital Factory has over 200 young companies in the top floors of the Omni building today. And it's mind-blowing. It's like going to Google in its early days, all these young ideas and young people and all this energy. And who knows if even a tenth of them will make it, but it's the coolest thing to be around.
How does someone join the Capital Factory, or is it a membership or like a mentoring program?
You mean someone like myself, or the companies?
The young companies, or someone with a business idea?
So they submit their business ideas to Josh Baer and the team there, and then they're vetted. I mean, you have to convince the Capital Factory mentors. So we'll meet and look at these things, and you have to get enough sponsorship that you're admitted into the incubator program, which means that really now you're just you're getting access to some free space or some paid for space, and then people, and then the other resources the Capital Factory has to offer. And then to move to the accelerator, you have to convince at least 2 mentors to sponsor you and write checks for at least $25,000, and then the Capital Factory matches it, and there's other venture funds that are now matching that. And so it gives these young companies and these young entrepreneurs a little bit of capital to continue to propel their idea. So it's a great program, and it's one of the better known in the country right now.
That's fantastic, and I want to thank Bob particularly for participating. I know he's the least extroverted person on this panel. He is not the socializing machine that some of the others are on this panel.
Yeah, when they were talking about networking and so forth, I was getting the hives. It's not one of my strong suits, and so I've thought often. In fact, I just had a discussion with a friend over the weekend that one of my many professional Achilles heels is if I could have just been more social with people in my business endeavors, I would have made more friends and things would have been a lot easier. I seem to do it sort of the more insular, hard way by myself and with the team that I've surrounded myself with, and thank goodness I've enjoyed success in that way as well.
While we've got you at the microphone, Bob, let me ask this. Most people have trouble asking for money, but all businesses need capital. So as the company is growing and you're looking on taking on outside investors, how do you handle interacting with potential investors, and are those the real sharks? What are some pitfalls to watch out for in that regard?
Well, I'm in the middle of that right now. I'll say I have great admiration and respect for those here that have bootstrapped their businesses from nothing and have built companies of size. That's very hard to do, and it's certainly very hard to do in this day and age with all the capital that's available to companies. I have, for whatever reason in my career, taken a different path, which is I come up with big ideas that require significant amounts of capital. And so in my life, I've raised over, I don't know, $100 million in venture capital where people have bet on the idea I've had and the team behind the idea and so forth. There's an extraordinary amount of pressure that comes with that because now you have people, breathing down your neck constantly, trying to make sure that their money's not going to go down the tubes. If you're a CEO of a young company, all the way through when it's no longer young, you're constantly raising money if you're growing it, or you're finding ways to continue to infuse it with capital. And so I'm a mentor for lots of companies, and I just said this to a CEO today. I said, just get used to always raising money, because that's just the way it's going to be. Because he thought he could take a break now and focus on other things, but he's already running out of capital. And I said, no. You're going to always be raising money, always selling somebody on something. And so there's a set of things that I certainly know, having raised money through venture capitalists and angel investors, that they just look for in the story. And yes, they can be sharks. They're all looking for a great deal. And the disconnect for me these days is I've done it so much that I don't want to give people a good deal. I want a good deal for myself and the shareholders that are part of the business. So there's sometimes a disconnect because they're all looking for a great deal to invest in. But the truth is they want clarity around the what's, the things that I already mentioned earlier. They want to see a presentation that clearly spells out what the business is about, and there's business truth. And then you got to ask for the order, and that's what it's about.
How many of you all out there have businesses or business ideas that you've been thinking about starting? All right. Just curious.
So on this topic of capital and capitalism, one of the things I've noticed in interacting with some of the students at Southwestern and students at the University of Texas is that there's a bit of a negative connotation to capitalism. And I think this is on the heels of the various crises we've had in the business world, Enron and its progeny. But I want to speak to that how to balance the capitalism of business with the good of community involvement. How can you use a business as a platform for doing good in the community? And I'm going to let Lisa lead this off and then open that up to the panel.
Capitalism is probably my favorite subject. I've got two children who just graduated from college. Well, one of them graduated, 3 years ago? 3 years ago, and one just graduated a year ago. Private schools and then on to universities and great degrees, and now they're going to save the world. And one's a fireman and one's a special education teacher, which I think is wonderful and it's fantastic, and I'm very, very proud of them. And they chose not to take their mom's path into the entrepreneurial world and the capitalist. But, I tell them all the time, capitalism's a good thing. It's what keeps America moving forward. And we live in the greatest country in the nation that allows free enterprise. And I like to encourage it always. And the more money you make, the more you can give back. And that's what I tell my kids. And so I just think everybody out there, congratulations, just even having the guts to have the idea to move forward and, find a mentor. I started with Nile 26 years ago. I was 12. Anyways, but he and I started that dance 26 years ago, and he was a nobody. I like to tell him I knew him when he was broke, and but going down that road, and it's scary and whatever. But I'll tell you, the more you make, the more you can do. And our corporate philosophy is that we give 10% back to our employees at the end of the year, and we give 10% to the community. So, we've had the honor of helping build Dell Children's and some of the other things in town that I'm very, very proud of Niall and the Maxwell family of dealerships, because, we really believe that, for a community that gives so much, we need to give back so much. And, and people just, you guys, I just believe that God's going to honor that in all of your businesses, that, if you go out there with the right reasons and the right spirit, which is capitalism in America, and then you give with the spirit that you're going to give back not only your time, your treasure, and your talent, and that you'll help other businesses, pay it forward, I think you'll be successful beyond your wildest dreams. That's my capitalism speech. You ought to ask my kids. I just really get into it, and I was pretty minor here, so.
Anybody else on the panel want to speak to that? Using that it's not just nonprofits that do good in the world.
Right.
How you can use a business platform for good in the community.
Well, I'll speak to that. I think you're seeing also a lot more what we call capitalistic businesses that are choosing actually that you would normally think, oh, they might be a nonprofit, not to go the nonprofit route, just because it is so much easier to give back and to do that. And with our company in particular, from the very early days, really from day one, every single thing that we do, we have an element of giving back from day one, and this is 12 years now. We have a kind of a launch party each month for the magazine. We sponsor a different charity each and every single month. So I've always believed I can give away a ton of ad space, and I think that's really important. We help a ton. I think we sponsored 103 different nonprofit events, galas and golf tournaments and all kinds of stuff. But I also understand that they need cash money. So we also help raise money. In fact, just last Friday, we had our ATX Man Golf Classic, 18 holes for 18 charities. And our second year, we raised over $55,000 for 18 charities. So just every piece of that. Now, look, I still, we're supposed to be, we're a for-profit business, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say we're giving everything away, but there is a way to do that. And the impact, not only on you personally, but also on your employees and what you can do, it's pretty exciting. So we've just made that our corporate philosophy, that everything that we do has some piece of giving back. And it's just become, part of our fabric.
I'll say this. First of all, never be ashamed of making money. It's, when you start to make a bunch of money, then everybody wants and thinks you're, loaded. For Ticket City, I can't tell you how many times we're asked, hey, can we give to this, silent auction? And, every school in Austin, every church and every synagogue, you do what you can to help out. But at the end of the day, it still is okay to say no, all right? You can't help all the time, but you do what you can, how you can, when you can, because it's making you feel good to do it.
And ultimately, it's about making money. You have to make money to give.
That's right. And I think it's good to find charities that align with your businesses, Now that I've got different ones, mine is Girl Scouts USA, and I'm all about it. And we're going to raise money for that, and raise money, and raise money. And the business as well. And then, he's got his, but it aligns with our core values of who we are. So it's fun to do. It's fun to do business, and it's fun to raise money, and it's fun to go out and do, it's just, it has to be fun. And because business is hard, and it's scary, and it's tough. And I lay awake, I think I laid awake last night. I got bags under my eyes. You have those moments in time. So that's the thing that it brings your team together. It brings your employees together. It brings a community together. It makes people know that you're the right person to do business with, because, they're going to see outwardly what you do within the community. Wouldn't all of you rather spend your hard-earned dollars with somebody who is going to give back? And so just know that as you start your businesses, everyone's watching, even when they're not, even when you don't think they're watching, they're watching.
And giving your time, that's the biggest gift at all. I think, you can make it fun and a team effort, like she said. We did we called it, I think it was Run to the Sun. And, we had 9 people in our office that decided to run from Enchanted Rock to Austin, Texas. It was about 80, 90 miles. So, it was kind of cool. We all had to get in the motorhome point number one, and then we, shared the journey together. And it was very, only were we giving to, I think it was for Batten disease, this particular one, but you work together as a team, and it brings you closer together. So, you have to find how it works for everybody.
My favorite one that we do is the Stiletto Stampede for the Cure. I'm on year 4 of it. First year we did a pink truck, and I swear Niall and I almost killed each other. He's like, "You are not doing a pink Ram truck." I'm like, "Yes, I am." And by God, we had a pink Ram truck and men in stilettos. We all ran in it. And, there was maybe 100 people. But, we're on year 4 now. And, of course, now we do pink Fiats. But, and now we have thousands of people running in this race and raising tens and thousands of dollars. And it's so much fun. Like, it's so much work. Oh, my God, it's so much work. But I look forward to it every year. It's like our signature event, So find that thing that you get to involve the community, your employees, do good. And if you do good, it comes back. It comes back 100-fold.
Well, speaking of giving time is a valuable resource, and obviously these folks tonight, they're not even being paid to be here in our wonderful company, so we're so thankful of that. I've got many more questions for them, but I want to save the remaining time to open up questions from the audience and then our business pitch. So if any of you have questions, please raise your hand. Over here in the black T-shirt.
It's the artful balance between being tenacious and determined, and knowing when it's time to quit. And I don't know if there's a great I don't know if I could give you a great definition, but I can tell you, for the number of times I've been knocked down, if I had $1 million, I'd never need a liquidity event to make money. So you have to get back up, and you have to keep dusting off, and you just have to keep doing it, because so much of success is about just being determined. So again, it's I'll just it starts out with who cares. So I have a business that does X. It serves this target market, and they have this problem or this need, or there's this upside, or this And the way we're gonna, and the things we'll say to them to get them to say, "Tell me more," is this, and the way we'll sell this is through these distribution channels, and it'll be at this kind of price point or this kind of business model, and here's how we'll make money, and here's what the competitive landscape looks like. And if a young entrepreneur can come in and start there, and that's a lot. I mean, I'll tell you, just to grind through that and be that clear or credible, but I'll see deals where they've got enough of the business truth laid down where you believe it, it's plausible, it's exciting, and you can see that there's a path for this thing to be successful. And so I mean, I've said this so many times. I'm a reform nerd, okay? And plus, that's one of the reasons why I'm not so social. I mean, I've got all these technical degrees. And so I've said lots and lots and lots and lots of people have great ideas. Okay, that's where it starts. Far fewer have the courage to pursue them. And so you take all the people with great ideas, and then it weeds out quickly with those that have the courage. And then you have to have, so the idea and the courage and then the tenacity. You're going to get knocked down a lot. Okay, and so we're through that filter, and then once you've had the idea and the courage and the tenacity, you have to have some semblance of knowing what to do. Okay, I mean, because you can work hard and still hit the side of a mountain, and so either surrounding yourself with people or yourself knowing how to operationally move this thing from point A to point B, and therein lies the magic of it all.
I want to follow up just real quick on what Bob. Add on to what Bob's saying. I'm not really much of a nerd. I'm more of a wannabe Fonzarelli. But, I don't care about the person's big idea. There's, like Bob said, a ton of big ideas up there. It's, and I don't care how hot the idea is. It's, do I think this person can execute on their idea? And they have to explain to me and tell me how they're going to make that happen. Because ideas are everywhere. I mean, execution is the key to your success.
That's the last leg of that story. Absolutely.
I'm his eye daughter and good at T-crossing too.
He keeps the details going.
Not at all. That's why you have to have a good team around you that does that. He's Mr. Detail. That's why he's so successful.
Any other?
Because I'm so cute. You know,
It's all the love.
At the end of the, I think it's really pretty easy. This is probably the most important question out here, y'all. It's empowerment, okay? I don't micromanage these guys. I'm not hovering over their computer watching what they're doing and how they're doing it. I'm gonna trust that they're doing things the right way. And if they make a mistake, all right, that's on me. I'm gonna take care of it, pay for the, and they appreciate that. They better not make that same mistake again, or there's going to be some ramifications, and we have that from time to time also. But if you take care of people, fair with them monetarily, as well as letting them run their own show, man, is there a job that's better? No one likes being told what to do and how to do it all the time. So that's it in a nutshell.
Any other comments from the panel on management team? That's so important.
Complicated topic. Whole nother panel.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Any more questions over here, right here in front?
If you had to pick one book to recommend to new entrepreneurs, that influenced you before you wrote your book, what would it be?
Well, I don't know if it's the one book, but I'll tell you, I just read a really great book, and it only, I guess, applies if you're married or in a relationship. It's called For Better or For Work, and it was written by the woman, and it's her.
I thought you were going to bust out Men Are From Mars.
No. And it's written by the wife of the founder of Stonyfield Yogurt, and. And it just came to me. I thought, and I don't know why I picked it up. I couldn't put it down. And the story, it's very enlightening about the path you're going to walk and how that affects your friends, your family, everything. And it was really, sometimes it was like, oh, dang, God, you see yourself. And sometimes it was like, okay, I feel better because I get it that other people are going through this. So for me, it was just a really great book. It's called For Better, For Work. Sorry.
I wanted to real quick. That's such a good question what he just asked, because one of my first mentor managers was a guy by the name of Ted Demetrio when I worked for Wallace Computer Services after graduating from Texas. And we went to training in Chicago, and we're sitting around all these young whippersnappers, being trained in Chicago, ready to be in sales, take over the world. And he sits down there and he goes, I want you guys to exercise. And I'm thinking, Bob, I work half a day, I'm in sales. I go exercise, half a day when I'm out in the field, and do a couple calls, and then maybe go to a movie. As long as you're getting your sales done, it's all good. And I didn't say that, but he says, I need you to exercise your brains. Read, and it's so important. And there's books out there, your Jim Collins books, your Built to Last, your Good to Great, your Tipping Point, your Outliers. These are all amazing books. The World is Flat. All those books are so important and instrumental for you to learn how people are running companies and what's happening out there. Because, there's so much information out there. You learn from others. And if you can do a better job of articulating what these folks are teaching us from these books, it helps educate the people around you, and you can be successful.
So I have a different slant on the, I can't give you the titles of books, I can't even remember them, but I've read a gazillion. And the ones that the thing that I found most important to learn is the psychology of people, starting with oneself. These business endeavors are the most grueling, complex things you'll ever go through. And it stresses every aspect of you as a being and the relationships you're in. And so to me, it's all about learning about oneself. I mean, yes, the business books are great and studying all that other stuff is fantastic, but at the core, if you don't know who you are, and you don't know how to endure stress and pain and agony and trials and tribulations, these things don't work. And so I would highly, highly recommend getting to know yourself deeply.
I agree with that. And there's actually a book that I was recommended recently by Kevin Koyam, who's the founder of Tech Ranch, and it's called Strength Finders. And it kind of helps you figure out what your strengths are so that you can leverage them. And it's really beneficial in terms of just understanding how you work and how you can relate to and work with people who are different and leverage their strengths to help your business grow.
And I just want to say good to great. I think, to your point, I think it's just, for all you young people out there, you got to start with that one. It's the best, and it's the foundation. And they're just amazing books. I teach the whole Maxwell curriculum for our automotive group to all our young people, how to manage from the middle, how to lead from behind, all the things that try to help the, young people come up and, and manage, because, we have a lot of middle managers in our organization, and they're 30 and under, and here they are, they're kids, and they're trying to manage a multi-million, $100 million a year organization, and, so you have to teach them how to lead, and you have to teach them how to be humble, and you got to teach them how to work hard. In that millennial world, it's really hard. So if you're trying to bring up a young team, I really like the Maxwell stuff because it's easy, but good to great for sure. Just if all your young ones out there, start with that one.
Well, come on down, Jonathan. You won yourself a book for that great book question. Come here. Come here. Yeah.
My latest favorite is Ariane Huffington's Thrive, which is great.
Yeah, very nice.
And ladies, lean in. Sam.
On this side? Then come on down. Come on down, if you don't mind, standing up here.
See the courage.
So that you're mic'd, why don't you come stand here?
I call that
pitch.
balls of steel.
Please introduce yourself, a little bit about you, and then present to the panel and the audience.
Hello? Okay. My name's Robert Lair. I'm a junior mathematics major. I'm good at coming up with ideas, but not as good at the whole clarity part. So that's one of the reasons I'm here, to learn about all that. I have several different ideas. The one I've sort of been fixated on recently is high heels, interestingly. But not just high heels, but I remember some friends were complaining after going to a party about their feet hurt a lot, and I was like, why do women wear high heels? And so I went to this custom high heel manufacturer to just learn about it, and they say the simple thing is it makes them look better, whatever. But yeah, I didn't really care about that, but what I was interested in is that, there's a demand. Women, their feet were hurting, and they wanted a better way. So I was like, well, they usually carry a second pair of shoes, like flats, where they walk barefoot. So is there a possible way you can go from high heels to flats without requiring two shoes? So like a transformable high heel. And I researched this, and there were some ideas like this before. There are some famous designers who designed this in 2006, except you haven't seen this anywhere, so obviously something went wrong. So I thought about it, and the challenge is that high heels have a steel shank or a very thick, sturdy piece on the bottom, and flats have to be flexible. So if you just chop the heel off, you're going to be walking like a clown, and it doesn't work. So there actually has to be some fun, tricky manufacturing that has to go into building these high heels. So it made me start thinking, because I really love materials, and seeing if there's any possible materials that can have both a rigid structure and a flexible structure. So I contacted some friends at UT in mechanical engineering and asked them, can you ask your professors whether they know of any materials that can change from flexible to rigid? And they were citing me some, if you put a current in it, if you change temperature, magnetic, all this stuff. And I didn't want that, because you don't want a shoe that's magnetic. You're walking, or you don't want a battery. That might be an issue. So I was like, or temperature. So I was thinking it needs to be mechanical, and I don't want it to be a nano-engineered material because that ups the cost a lot. So the idea, I shifted from the high heels because my friend said it was a niche market, and I still think it might be really interesting, because some women thought it was great. Other women are like, I don't want to wear that. Because then it comes into design. You need a designer on your team to make sure it's not just an ugly looking shoe that, you don't want that. But the material fascinated me, because I thought, if you could create a kind of zippered or Chinese finger trap material, or interlocking pieces, where when they're slightly loose, it creates a flexible, it's flexible, and when they're sort of stuck together in an interlocking grid, it's rigid. You could create really hard surfaces like tables or just whatever, and just loosen them up and then pack them up and then roll. So the idea is that you'd be able to take rigid surfaces and easily transport and pack them. And I'm not a mechanical engineer or designer, but the idea, I'm just describing the process of how the idea was created, and I was curious whether you all or anyone up there knows of anything like this out there, because I'd be really interested in
So
whether
the
this
idea
is.
is to create a material that uses some kind of zipper-like technology that
Mech-
flexes and firms.
It doesn't have to be
based on the
zipper.
application, or whatever.
Yeah.
Interlocking.
Some type of interlocking.
Not necessarily for this high heel.
Not necessarily for high heels, but that was the inspiration.
I think you're brilliant. My whole life, I've never heard that. And this is like today's the first day I've ever worn flats in, I don't know, a lot of years, because I hurt my back, and my friends are going, why are you in flat shoes? Because I can't wear high heels today, and I hate it. I love you. So did Cindy plant you to come up here?
What? No, I didn't want to come up here because.
You would think, but I didn't.
No, because I mean, I heard your answer to the question about clarity. I was like, I'm not coming up here.
So,
You have a good product. I figured out.
so the high heels product is one thing, the use of a material is another thing.
Yeah.
And again, you have, the business truth is, what business are you in? If you're
Yeah.
gonna invent a material that has
It's a
all
com-
kinds of broad applications, that's a completely
Yeah.
different business. Then, I mean, on the Shark Tank, by the way, they had some inventors that came up with, high heels that, you know, you change out the heels and
Yeah,
other kinds
I've
of
seen
things.
those before. That's not what I wanted.
So it's, and they weren't very well received
Yeah.
because of all the, you know, competition out
Yeah.
there and the design aspects. And
Yeah.
so the material thing is more interesting to me than I mean,
Yeah.
I get the high heel. I love
I
women
don't
in
think
high
you
heels.
really do get
No,
the
I
high
do.
heels. Like, he had me at hello. I was like, you can do
love
what?
the high heel thing, and I think that magnetic thing actually could work. The fact what he did,
Yeah.
he didn't just come up with an idea. I don't care that it was just an idea. He actually did some due diligence
Yeah.
and went to some of his buddies at the University of Texas, started to ask some questions. You know, he's thinking about the little Chinese thing that you can never get your fingers out of there.
You have the
he's
guts
talking
to say
about
it to 60
You
people?
know, I see a magnet. You get a charge transforming magnet that you can pop in there and then, you know, press the button and it goes negative. And now you can take it off and, you know, slip it in your purse and you're just carrying that thing around in your purse instead of another pair of shoes. You know, I mean, we just now have smaller purses for all you ladies. Because you don't need, you know, the big gargantuan ones that hold the shoes and the phones.
Well, I realized, I mean, the heel itself wasn't the issue. It's you could pop the heel. I didn't care about popping the heel off. I didn't want separate pieces. The issue
Contour
was
of the shoe.
it's the contour of the shoe, which was really stiff because you'll be walking like a clown, literally. And women, that's what I mean.
But if you could fold that thing back into the shoe and there's a little place where
That
you
was
know,
the idea, but then
tucks
it
that
still
in
needs to
there.
be flexible.
Have you gone to a shoe manufacturer with it? Like an actual
I went
shoe?
to a guy who was doing custom shoes, and I asked him about it, and I came up with the actual material idea after, like when I was walking back. This was through Chicago. I was walking back. I was already 10 minutes away. I was like, hey, maybe it would be cool to do a material instead.
Melinda and I spoke on Monday for Austin Business Journal for women, and they did the head of the Shark Tank, whatever her name is, who wrote the. Thank you. I'm so bad at names. Anyway, she wrote a book, and I've got a book. And if you want to come by, I'll give it to you. But she said she just wrote the book, but she said, how do you invent things? How do you take an idea to a patent to a la 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 la. Anyways, but you can have my book because I'm never going to invent anything, but I might invent that.
For 90% of your company, I will give you $500.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I
want
don't
a piece
know
of that?
anything
I
about
do.
business, so we can talk
I
about
think the
that.
materials business would be a much bigger play.
Yeah, so.
I agree with that. It's more revolutionary. But the way that you approach discussing the shoe idea is actually, it was really intelligent because I was able to relate to what you were saying as a woman, and that would be your target
Yeah.
audience. And I think if you can, the way that you were describing the story was powerful, and I think that's going to become useful for you if you're going to pitch to investors. But yeah, I agree choosing which business you
Well,
want to do.
it's interesting because, so we have the technical people, and then I guess more of the, I don't know how to describe you guys.
Salespeople.
Yeah, salespeople.
Yeah, there you go.
Salespeople,
Right?
like, so to my friends, the salespeople are all about the shoe, and the technical people are like, screw the shoe. Like, it's like the material part, and that's like my friend at UT. I mean, she's a very strong woman, but she's into mechanical engineering.
So let me give you a reason why I said what I said, because I'm, one of my favorite things to do is shop with a woman to buy high heels, swear. Cindy can vouch for this.
Yes.
And so I get it, and I've heard lots of complaining, but the truth is if you're gonna invent a material, you then can take that material to those that make these shoes,
Yeah.
and those that make all kinds of other things, and then you're onto a very big business.
Because they're not competing. Okay.
With the shoe manufacturers, you're giving them something new to sell to their already existing customers.
So what are the steps for the like invention, because I don't want to get it.
Because you just told 60 people.
And then you'd have a whole bunch of these use cases where, you know, you can use it for high heels, you can use it for this, you can use it for this.
Yes.
And you walk around to all these folks that already have existing customer bases and distribution channels and product offerings, and you let them buy the technology, license the technology, and you sit back and collect royalties all day.
I got these pointy boots, and sometimes my toes hurt when they squeeze them together. So how do we fix that?
We need to fix us first.
We can talk later.
Yeah.
I mean,
Enough about you.
that requires an initial $500
I think we
investment.
have some input from the audience too. Someone up here?
I was gonna say, I would just research existing materials.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking about something that flexes,
Yeah.
and then something that may not flex, there's materials already in the medical industry that already do that. You can roll it up, you can expand it, and you break your arm, you turn it that way, and all of a sudden you can't flex it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I've
there's
thought.
some similar materials out there, probably that exist that will do both.
I'm sure there is. I just haven't. I mean, I just need to meet the right people who send me in the right direction to see those materials. And I mean, I always think that it's not really inventing a new material, it's finding it in a different application and then putting it, because, yeah, that's all it is, connections.
Well, I would say once Robert launches this high heel that I'm very interested in.
I am.
I think launching it at the Stiletto Stampede would be a brilliant networking idea.